Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody, depending on where you're dialing from. Welcome back to the Musari Show. Today we got a really special guest. That's Graham Norris. But before we get into it, please do hit the like and subscribe button if you are tuning in from YouTube. To those tuning in from Spotify, please be sure to hit the 5-star rating. That's a quick and easy way of helping us to spread our content. We want to, spread content that's helpful to upcoming and aspiring entrepreneurs. Today, we're excited to have Graham Norris in the house. He's a top performing entrepreneur, a real estate investor, business mentor, has over 20 years of experience in the field. He moved from the UK, he's a British native, to the US in 2003, and he now has a portfolio of over 100 apartments across the country. And he seems to specialize in multifamilies. So at one point, he had founded Endless Leads Academy, which equips entrepreneurs with, systems that attract leads and grow confidence because, it's really important to build systems in order to have such a massive portfolio. So, Graham, really excited to have you. I know there's going to be a lot of wisdom shared here. It's impossible to build a portfolio of over 100 properties across the country with no wisdom and knowledge. So, really excited to have you today. Welcome to the show and thanks for joining.
Thank you, Armando. It's a real pleasure to be on the call with you. I hope I can add some value today.
No, absolutely. When I look across the country, you do find that, um, I'm sure you've noticed that there have been programs, across the country that really teach and train people how to build massive portfolios in the country. And in spite of that, you do also hear stats that, the housing market is short of about 6 to 7 million houses for there to be affordable housing. So, how has your journey been? What made you get started, or maybe what was your why in building such a massive portfolio?
Yeah, let me take you back a bit. I've been here in the States now for close on 25 years. I came right before 9/11 in 2001
Mhm.
and came to be reunited with my wife. We got married in England. She followed me back to England. I came here and then she followed me back to England. We got married. And she very quickly discovered, my passion, real estate. So she got me the course, Con Sheets, No Money Down. And that's really what I dove into right away when I got over here.
Mm.
So it's always been my passion, real estate. I've moved a lot when I was in the UK and always had the eye for the deal and just loved the thrill of that. And even going back further than that, as a kid, I was always playing Monopoly with ghost players. I
Yeah.
love that buying the houses and negotiating and things like that. So it does the thrill of the chase and acquisition, solving big issues and problems, and yeah, really the idea of creating a legacy to open up all sorts of possibilities is my big why.
Yeah, so that got you playing real life Monopoly, I see.
Yes, really, that's the case. Yeah.
No, that's great. And when people think of like real estate, people think of, traditional ways of raising capital to fund an acquisition. And when it comes to like scaling to like over 100 properties, it's really important to do it in a very systemic way. So, for example, when you look around, you find a lot of like, credible teachers in the market, like your Grant Cardones, the Life Surges, the Pace Morbies, which is who I got your contact from, by the way.
Mm.
And they kind of teach ways of like raising capital without any down payment or without any credit check or any like debt capital of your own. So how was your journey of discovery of that? Because I'm assuming that that's what you adopt in building such a portfolio. And in a nutshell, how can that be done by
Yeah.
someone aspiring to get in?
No, that's an amazing question. I think I was fortunate enough to start that way. As I said, it was a course. Cotton sheets, no money down. That means no money out of my pocket. And in fact, I actually got paid at closing on my first deal, which was two duplexes and a single.
Mm.
So it was the proof of concept. And really, that's really the people you mentioned, Grant Cardone, of course, Pace Morby, all teach that creative financing.
Yeah.
And that's really The whole game of real estate is a team sport. I mean, I'm not a wealthy man. I didn't start that way. When I came here to America, I had just two suitcases, and that was it. I
Yeah.
sold everything. I did have a little bit of cash from the sale of my car that I had in the UK. And so I was thrilled to discover that you can own real estate. But, you know, you don't need the money yourself in the bank. You don't need millions of dollars in the bank. You just need the knowledge. And after that, it raised my belief. So the next acquisition was a 24 unit. So I wanted to scale up. I set myself a goal of 500 units, and I didn't reach that goal, but that's the goal I set myself.
Yeah.
And within a couple of years, I had over 100 units in multifamily.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I have been exposed to, like, different methods that people can raise capital. So can you give us like some tips of like what those methods can be? So for example, I'm aware that there's like lease options that some people are into like short-term rentals. So what would you say was your strategy, and how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. It's what the other person's need is, really, essentially. So when I started, why did I get that first deal? Well, it was somebody who didn't want that piece of real estate anymore. Those two duplex and a single. It needed a lot of work, and they knew that. And they weren't going to sell it the way it was.
Mm,
So there was a need, a motivation. And then often there's paired with that is whoever's financing it behind that may be a bank. So you may have a motivated bank that understands and needs somebody willing to take on this project.
yeah.
And then once you've got that motivation in place, it's then just working out the details. So it's a win for everybody.
Mm,
And essentially that comes across with any deal that you find in real estate is finding out what the underlying issue is, the
yeah.
underlying problem. And if you've got the solution and you can work out the solution, then you can acquire the property. That's
Okay.
essentially it. So that's the broader scale. So I've done them all, right? I even ended up, a British man, fresh in the States, going to a bank on the 24 unit, and I have no credit history.
Yeah.
And so they didn't understand that. So I had to create a business plan and present that. And so the bank were confident that I knew what I was talking about and that I could manage the property, right? They didn't want to own that property back again after 5 minutes. So they needed to be confident in what I could bring to the table. And I took courses for that and what have you. So it's knowing how to address the issues, and it's having a team in place. And then beyond that, the next one was a 32 unit, and that one was somebody assigned a contract to me
Hmm.
on that one. And again, the same bank actually, gave me a credit line to fix it up because it was close to being condemned.
Mm.
Yeah, so the bank was able to give me a credit line with that to get it fixed up and build in the equity.
Okay, interesting. So when you come across a deal, right? So let's say someone who's like a rookie in this, and you find credible sites like LoopNet, like your Crexy.coms and all those sites, right?
Mm.
So when you're evaluating a property, what would you say would be, let's say, the top 3 or 4 things that you would look at to judge whether this is a good deal, an attractive deal, or whether the deal is a no-go? Because obviously you got to talk to people who are willing to be capital partners, depending on the structure that you're looking at.
Yes, absolutely. And people think of that first, do the numbers make sense? And yes, that's an important component. But I always, what's uppermost in my mind is why are they selling the property? What's the story?
Yeah.
Because that's going to lead you to what we call the exit strategy is on the property.
Hmm.
And of course, when you buy a piece of real estate, you've got to figure out what your goals are. You know, are you going to flip it? Uh, are you going to only hold it for a short period of time and make a profit? Or are you going to keep the property for income flow?
Yeah.
So you're going to run numbers on that to see if the numbers work. But to me, that's a secondary thing. The most important thing is find out the story.
Yeah.
Somebody's selling it for a reason. There's an issue. There is a problem usually, and that's what we're looking for as investors. We're looking for a problem, and we're to bring the solution. And the bigger the problem in real estate, the bigger the paycheck.
Yeah.
That's a quote from Donald Trump, actually from his book, which I read early on as well when he bought the tower, Donald Trump Tower.
Hmm.
The story of that.
Yeah. So let me throw an interesting curveball, right?
Yeah.
So I'll give a real life scenario. So this is a scenario that I came across. So there's a property. It's in New Lots in Brooklyn. I'm not sure how familiar you are with New York City, right?
Mm,
So this property is valued at well, the ask price is $1.9 million,
mm,
and they had recently lowered it from like $2.2 million. And when you look at the return on investment, I can't recall the cap rate, but the return on investment is plus minus 13%, right? And obviously, given the area and given the rules in the place, they can only increase the rent by about 2%, right?
mm.
So if you saw a property like that, it's 11 units, eight of which are residential and three are commercial. How would you go about that problem?
Well, first, it wouldn't be in my buy box for a start. I wrote a small book, Cautionary Tales about real estate investing,
Yeah.
based on my experience. And really, when you have a small amounts of units like that, it's very hard to get good cash flow. And the reason for that is everything's at retail when you want to fix the plumbing or electrical or things like that. So the expenses of owning that property usually pretty high.
Mm,
Um, I recently went through. I've spent over $100,000 on my education, and learned really that if you are interested in multifamily, it's best to have management on site, and you usually get that with 100 units or more. Uh,
mm,
it becomes scalable, so you can employ, a handyman and maybe a regular contractor, plumber, electrical. All these things are expensive, and they reduce the cost, which increase the cash flow. Also, when you do but purchase something like that, as large as that, you want a good return for your money. So you've got to look at cash flow and add value.
mm.
How much can you add the value in that? What's the potential?
Yeah.
Are there things that are broken that are easy to fix? So you mentioned about the 2.2. Um, for increasing rent, well, that's not very much at all. And usually that's what you leave on property when you sell it anyway to make it
Yeah.
attractive for a potential buyer. I mean, if there's no meat on the bone, they're not going to buy it. So I would reject that on that basis. Also, you got to look at, can you, what's the highest and best use for the piece of real estate? It sounded like it was a bit mixed there. I'd want to know a little bit more about that,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on that. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And obviously, I'm going to address the elephant in the room. We have a nice looking book there at the back with a very interesting title, Investing in Multifamily Solved. So, what would you say? So, let's say, you obviously want to persuade people to buy a copy. I'm going to buy a copy, by the way. I hope it's on Amazon, is it?
Yes, it's on Amazon.
I'm
Yeah.
actually going to buy the copy before we end this episode, right?
Oh, thank
So,
you.
what are the top five things that a reader is going to pick up and learn from reading your book on investing in multifamilies? And while you answer, I'm going to be listening to your answer very attentively, and I'm going to be ordering my own copy, and I'll let you know when I'm done.
All right, fantastic. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you for purchasing a copy ahead of time. The whole idea of the book was to demystify all the terms. I mean, it's especially if you're thinking about getting into multifamily, you've got to be able to speak the language like anything else, right? So, knowing how to the cap rate, for instance, and the IRR and all these things. So you'll discover all those little terms that are so important.
Hmm.
You'll understand how to underwrite, the importance of underwriting, which is very wide. It's not just looking at the price of purchasing it. It's not like single family.
Yeah.
So you'll learn about the ABCD. You'll learn about the different, like you have ABCD categories for
Hmm.
location, the areas of the locate where it's located. It might be in a C area, which a D area, for example, is a war zone. The worst part of town. You know,
Yeah.
C is slightly better and B is better still, and A is the most desirable parts of town. And so you'll learn about that. And then you have the ABCD rating on the building itself. So it may be, run down. It may be owned by a mom and pop, right? And
Yeah.
not been managed very well.
Mm.
And so it has not been improved for several years, so it needs improvements. And maybe they didn't put a wash and dryer connections in the units, and you can do the value add or things like that. Maybe undercover parking, So these all things they rate it pretty much like a hotel. You rate a hotel so many stars, right? So
Yeah.
you rate a multifamily that way. So you can learn things like that. And
No,
then,
that's
yeah,
that's interesting. So, I once heard a story about Mahatma Gandhi. I actually read about it, right?
mm,
So, paraphrasing, a child was taken by his mother to Mahatma Gandhi because the child had a severe addiction to candy, right?
right.
And the mother was like, "Okay, this child of mine has a candy addiction. What can I do, Mahatma Gandhi?" And he said, "Okay, give me 2 weeks and come back to me after 2 weeks." So, the child and the mother did that. And 2 weeks later, um, they went to Mahatma Gandhi, and Mahatma Gandhi advised the child to stop eating candy. And the mother asked, like, "Okay, why did you take 2 weeks just to say that?" And Mahatma Gandhi replied and said, "The reason I asked you guys to come back in 2 weeks was because 2 weeks ago, I myself had an addiction to candy." So before I could give that advice, I had to make sure that I was following the example. So I want to encourage people to buy the book. I finally made my order, so I won't advise people to do something I'm not doing myself. And I hope people are making their orders too as they're listening.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
that's interesting. So let's say in your investment strategy. So let's say I see a property, and let's say this property does have room for value add, and the current return on investment is sitting at, let's say, 10 to 15%. Um, so in value adding, what would you say would be like the target return on investment to make it attractive?
Yeah. With a large multifamily, you have investors who just they're limited partners. So they expect quarterly advances, and it may be typically at the moment 7, 8, even 9% possibly return on each distribution, and then the project could be anywhere from 3 to 5 years,
Hmm.
and that's where the bulk of the profit is expected, or why an investor will put it in. Um, a really good project you would typically see a doubling of your money. No, we can't promise anything, right? Things
Yeah,
go-
that's right.
But that's kind of a typical sort of expectation and a goal we would have as general partners in the deal. You've got general partners and you've got limited partners. So limited partners, they just invest their money. They have no say so or anything in the running of the property or the acquisition of the property or disposition. They don't make any decisions. They just throw their money into the pot, as it were, and they get a return on the investment. So an investor, a good deal, they can expect that. So a typical quarterly distribution, good run on the money, better than the bank, and then a nice capital uh, return when the project is sold.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So final question, final and interesting question. So to someone that wants to get into real estate, right? So let's say this person has a 9 to 5 and they're trying to get out of the 9 to 5. They start to develop some interest and passion for real estate because they realize that, let's say, you're helping the housing issue in the country because there is a $6 million gap, but at the same time it's lucrative. What would you say are the, let's say, three top pull factors to get into the business, and what would you cautiously and realistically say would be two or three issues to like look out for and some of the downsides and risks that comes with it?
That's a fantastic question. Yeah. First thing to realize, you can't do this by yourself. It's impossible.
Mm,
And especially if you're new. So it's very, very important that you partner up with people who have been where you want to go and been successful.
yes.
Right. So for me, that was a long road of learning that and making horrible losses as a result. That's when I came across Pace Morby about 4 or 5 years ago, and he's got it. Few have not got it. His main emphasis is building a community and building teams, encourages teams. So,
Yes.
as a newbie in real estate, you have a passion for it. I would start right at the bottom, what we call like a bird dog.
Hmm.
So you're on a team and playing a minor role, and and you can go as fast as you like, right, and progress up the what I call the investor ladder. There's a ladder to climb,
Yeah.
and you learn, and you're getting paid for being part of a team, and you can go as fast as you like, as you learn. But I was on 3 acquisitions teams with Pace. I've been on and learnt a lot, even though uh, I knew some before from all the education and what have you. But there's no way. I think I say this a lot, but if you lived 1,000 years and studied real estate 24/7, you
Yeah.
would never know it all.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's a team sport, so I would encourage anybody new to join a team of like-minded individuals. I would also networking every day is very important, either on a Zoom like this
Hmm.
or live. Go to a local investor meeting and learn from that, and of course, read. Reading is vital.
Yes.
And personal development is as well. Being an entrepreneur, you need to develop and be a leader. You need to have confidence, and that comes over time with what you're doing and talking to people. So we we have to be in the team.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah,
And one golden question, right?
yeah,
Because you did highlight the point of self-development. I like to put an exclamation mark on that, and I believe that in any field in life, self-development is very important. So when you look at a lot of these real estate training programs and these communities around the country, you do find those communities that have very strong, credible people in there, and you have to pay quite a hefty sum to get in, right? So that some you pay like $20,000 plus, some you pay $10,000 to $15,000 plus, and some even up to above $30,000, right?
yeah,
And normally in these networks, you get access to very rich information. In the network, you find people who are well trained and people who also pay the hefty fee to get in, so they have some sort of financial stability. So in looking at that, and given that this comes with a very strong community benefit, what would you say to someone who's scratching their heads and wondering whether they should make the investment or not, given the importance of community?
Yeah. Probably that's a little more advanced. If you're new and you just quit your job 9 to 5, as it were, or you have no experience, is you have to start really at the bottom. I would encourage people to start at the bottom to see how it fits and find your way, find your niche, find who you connect to, because you can throw a lot of money in there and it may stick, it may not. It may not. It may be a fit, it may not. You may not be accepted in there or not. So you have to kind of, like anything in life, grow into it.
Hmm.
And I think that's probably the safest way. Although sometimes, so then it depends on how risk averse you are with these things. Um, I put, as I say, a lot of money into a lot of real estate programs, and most of them were not. There wasn't the return on investment I expected.
Yeah.
And that's probably not the fault of the real estate course or the coaches. I've had personal coaches. Spent $30,000 one time on a coach, and it didn't do anything for me. Told me what I already knew,
Hmm.
and it didn't really help, which was really annoying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really ease your way in. There's no quick fix. It sounds like so everybody wants to press the instant button, right? But
Hmm.
this is a long play, real estate. And we've been talking a lot about multifamily. That's a long play. By long play, we're talking at least 10, 20 years, in this game. So somebody like me, I'm in my mid 60s now. I find it hard to start right at the beginning, right? Because I
Yeah.
don't even know I'd live that long,
I want
right?
to be in that position too at that
Yeah,
age.
yeah, right. So that's what I mean about. I think the best advice I can give anyone is start at the bottom, and it's okay if you're on a good team. If you find a team in a community like Pace has. I mean, it's how many in the community now? 20,000 and sub two. I don't know, 10,000 in Gator. I don't know the up to date numbers, but there's a lot of people. So you can certainly find your way there. And yeah, that's what really I'd advise. But you're putting a lot of money out there, say $50,000. It You could easily lose that very easily
Yeah.
if you haven't got if you're not ready for that. Does that make sense? I want to get
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Can't buy success. In other words, yeah,
Absolutely. You got to go through the process.
yeah,
So Graham, like you've probably given me 5 years of learning in 30 minutes, and I'm pretty sure that the people who are watching feel the same way.
mm.
I'd like to thank you once again for joining. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom. And before we get off, how can the users find you? Well, the audience.
yeah. I'm on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, most of the places. I've got my, of course, email as well. But if anyone's interested, there is my QR code that leads to my Blink card, and all my social media links are there. So if you want to scan the QR code, then that will lead you to my Blink card.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. So, Graham, thank you so much for joining once again. I really look forward to getting my book. I'm actually going to be done with my book hopefully by Wednesday so that, Thursday-ish I can start reading yours. I'm going to send you feedback. I'm going to ask you a lot of
Yeah.
questions, maybe some annoying questions, but that's how you learn.
Oh,
Thank you
I
so
love
much for
that.
joining, and God bless.
And you. Thank you very much indeed. You have a
Thank you.
wonderful day. Bye bye.